Dan Gray,
Hi there.
retired from Channel 2 News. How many years has it been now?
About a year and a half
About a year
to
and a half.
retired from Channel 2.
So-
Yeah, I spent about 18 years there, and then prior to that at Channel 5 in St. Louis, and a total of about 51 years in broadcasting.
Wow.
And then, I spent 8 years in radio, 43 years in TV. And so when I heard that Regis Philbin did 50 years in broadcasting, I said, I got to go one more year. I got to beat Regis, 51 years. So I made it to 51.
So, Dan, the Bourbon Economic Development Group, you're a part of that, right?
Yes.
And you're kind of a part of it through the animal control issue. What is that group called?
Yeah, it's called the Bourbon Animal Care and Control. It's a 501c3 organization, a charitable organization that works to help the city of Bourbon, Missouri, establish an animal control services and facility, and educate people about pet ownership and responsible pet ownership and getting their dogs tagged and licensed, and the leash laws that we've had enacted. It has been an issue having loose dogs in Bourbon. It has been an issue for a number of years, and unfortunately, my wife, Michelle Reynolds Gray, a few years ago, about 3 years ago, was bitten by a pit bull outside. So, I kind of picked up on that tragedy and tried to turn it into something good, and trying to help the city become more proactive in taking animal control seriously.
So, Dan, I know personally you're a dog lover.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I know at one time we had 4 dogs. We now have 2, but yeah, we have 2 dogs now, and I've always grown up with dogs. I think I've always had a dog all my life, at least one. And so, yeah, I love dogs, and then this is, I'm pro dog and I'm pro person. This is just it's a public safety issue that we're trying to bring attention to in the city of Bourbon. There are cats, feral cats that run loose. Some dogs run loose, and so, but most of the dogs that are unrestrained do have owners. There are owners somewhere, and so, and the police don't like to chase around dogs and try to run down their owners because they've got a lot better things to do. So that's why we're trying to get more awareness about that issue, and also have more animal control services for the city of Bourbon. They used to have animal control services 15, 20 years ago in Bourbon, but it went away because of budget cuts or whatever, and they haven't had it for a while. So we're trying to bring more attention to that, maybe resurrect a building somewhere, maybe build a building or use an existing building where we could have some space for animal control.
So your group is part of the Bourbon Economic Development Group, and what is the mission of the Bourbon Economic Development? I mean, it's kind of in the title, I think. But
Right, it is, and it's kind of like a chamber of commerce in most cities, and it does promote economic development in Bourbon. It promotes businesses and organizations, and it has an outreach to residents too. Where trying to get residents to move to Bourbon. What would it take to move somebody to Bourbon? What kind of house would they like? Where would they work? How would they make a living? And so there's a big push on that in throughout the whole area, in Sullivan and Cuba, and throughout the whole area in Crawford County, that we're trying to attract residents, who work here but may not live in this area, but maybe it would be easier for them to live here, and what would be their housing demands. And of course, their Bourbon Economic Development does do a lot of business promotion and trying to attract new businesses to Bourbon, and it has been growing. The last few years, there's some good retail growth in Bourbon. My wife and I own a Bourbon Cafe and Coffee Saloon, one of the businesses in Bourbon that started, we'll be there 4 years next month.
Wow.
And so that's one of the businesses that is open. A number of a pizza restaurant opened, some other businesses opened. Bourbon finally got a bourbon distillery.
Yeah.
It only took about 200 years, but they don't like to rush into things. So So and there's a new bicycle shop, and it's a growing community. It really is, and we're happy to be part of it.
It's pretty neat through the through the Bourbon Economic Development Group, but also I think the business owners are doing a good job of promoting each other.
They do, yeah. And what I found out is, and I had not been in the restaurant business prior to this, and when I retired a couple of years ago, then I am doing more focusing on our business in bourbon than in the restaurant business. And what I found is, yes, other restaurants are competitors, but they're also friends. And we kind of rely on each other and promote each other. And that, if somebody comes to us and we're not maybe what they're looking for in a menu, we recommend other businesses in bourbon, and they do the same for us too. So it really does. We are competitors, but we're also colleagues. At the same time.
So one of what you're supposed to be talking about today, I think, is the barbecue grilling competition and festival that's coming up here in the middle of June. So,
yes, right.
Yeah.
This is the 7th annual Bourbon Barbecue Festival, and I'd encourage you to if you like. All you have to do is roll down your window when you get near bourbon, and you'll smell that beautiful barbecue smoke and follow your nose, to the city of Bourbon. It's at on 560 Elm Street is where the barbecue festival takes place, which is at the intersection of Pine and Elm Street, right there in the heart of downtown Bourbon.
Kind of right across from the community center.
Exactly. Yeah, right across from the community center. And so this year, we are going to have at least 15 to 20 competitors, and they come from all over the state of Missouri, and even some from out of the state. We had some out-of-state competition last year. I think there was a team from Arkansas and a team from another state, but we get competition from the competitors from all over the state of Missouri, and the Bourbon Barbecue Festival has become, quite a prominent place on the circuit for these barbecue chefs who want to show off their ribs and their pork steaks and their chicken, and they love to come to Bourbon. And last year, Sam, we had over 1,000 people attend that barbecue festival.
Wow!
For Bourbon, that was probably the most people outside from the public gathering in Bourbon ever. I can't. Maybe there's been a high school football game or something like that that's gathered a large crowd, and this year we're having over 100 vendors as well. We'll have, as I said, at least 15 to 20 competitors in 3 different categories, and that's chicken, ribs, and pork steaks. And we will give first, second, third place prizes in each of those categories. So they'll have trophies will be going out. Cash prizes will be going out as well. And it's just a great time to have a community come together and also welcome so many people from outside of Bourbon. A lot of folks that are competing will bring some family and friends with them. And you'll also get a chance to eat barbecue at the barbecue festival. Sometimes that's not always possible at barbecue festivals.
Which I find strange, but
it is, isn't it? You think you go to a barbecue festival and you end up with tacos from a vendor or something. But, which is okay, which is fine.
Sure.
But people come to a barbecue festival. And so the Bourbon Economic Development Group is one of the vendors, and they have set up a truck and a place where they'll be cooking barbecue themselves and making it available and selling it to the public. And then the individual competitors are not serving the public directly, but they will prepare a plate of chicken or pork steaks or ribs, and they'll prepare a plate, and that'll be given to the judges. And then the judges by noon, I believe, is the deadline, and then the judges will sample all the competitors' choices, and then we will have a decision usually about the winners about around 2 p.m. The whole festival goes from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it'll be around 2 p.m. that we'll announce the winners. And it's usually pretty exciting. And, one thing I found interesting in talking to competitors is, sometimes you'll have one family, it'd be a family that is competing. and there'll be a restaurant that's competing, and there'll be a chef, a professional chef who's competing. And we had last couple of years, we had a brother and sister on different teams competing against each other. And usually the sister wins.
Oh, yeah.
She usually comes up with a higher score than her brother. And so it's always kind of fun to see who's, they kind of tease each other throughout the day and go over and, and sample each other and goof off with each other. But it's really fun. It really is a great time. If you love barbecue, it's the place to be. And you can learn more about barbecuing. If you're an amateur backyard barbecue chef and you want to, get some really good professional, advice, pardon me, there'll be the competitors there are happy to talk to you, happy to give you information. And like I said, they're from all over state of Missouri, some of them from out of Missouri, and they just love to hand out their cards and information. They may represent a restaurant, they may represent a company, they may represent themselves, and that's it. And they're free to compete, and they love giving out the information, get more people involved in the barbecue world.
I'm not sure we mentioned it. This is all on Saturday, June 14th, and which is Flag Day, I think. And right downtown Bourbon, right?
Right downtown Bourbon. And the money that is raised from the barbecue festival is going to the new Welcome Center that Bourbon is building. There's a Welcome Center just off of Interstate 44, right off the Interstate 44 exit into Bourbon. They're building a new Welcome Center, a Route 66, a location as well. And so the money is raised is going to that effort to build that, and it's going to be. We'll have live music by Kathy Harmless, who's a local singer. The Brenton Sterling Band will be there. They've been there in the past. They're well known in the area. There'll be games. There'll be bounce houses for kids. A lot of vendors. Sometimes the school, the Bourbon middle school students or high school students will be a vendor, and they'll offer food or sandwiches, and they'll have a lot of fundraising events going on for them. And so it's a great place to spend a Saturday, June 14th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
All right. Well, Dan, you mentioned Route 66, and you mentioned that you and your wife own a cafe and coffee saloon there in Bourbon. How important is Route 66 to your business?
Oh, it's critical. I mean, it is so. Well, one of the surprising, developments of having the Bourbon Cafe and Coffee Saloon is that we have great support from the area, from people from Sullivan, people from Cuba, people from Steelville, people from Bourbon, customers from St. Louis, customers from Columbia and Jefferson City. We have, but what has been really pleasantly surprising is the international visitors we get who are traveling Route 66, and they find us on the Route 66 app, which will show attractions in whatever area they happen to be in at the moment. It'll come up with tourist attractions and restaurants and hotels, and we pop up on the Route 66 app. And so they will find us, and they'll come, and they may not speak much English, and they'll be from Italy or France or all throughout Europe. So we've had New Zealand and Australia visitors, from South America, from Ukraine, from Russia. And it is amazing. I was telling somebody recently, I said, we usually get international visitors every week. And my wife, Michelle, corrected me and said, no, we don't. We get them almost every day. Yeah. And now with the weather being nice, international, particularly Europeans and other, international vacationers, pardon me, are fascinated with Route 66 in the United States. They are fascinated by it, maybe more than most Americans are. And I think they've even done a survey of who is traveling Route 66, the Route 66 Association has, and they found that more international travelers are on the Mother Road than Americans.
Yeah.
And so, but we do get a lot of folks from around the country who are traveling Route 66. But it's fascinating that the international visitors seem to be fascinated by the small town historical part of the United States of America. Sure, they like Disney World or they like Las Vegas or whatever, but but they kind of want that Route 66 approach for their holiday, and they'll take 5-6 weeks to travel Route 66 from Chicago to California. We had a group in from a group of 4 people, 3 of them from France, 1 of them from Switzerland, and they're all riding motorcycles. On Route 66, going from Chicago. They rented motorcycles. Then they came through St. Louis and came through Bourbon, and then they're on their way, south to Oklahoma and then west. And so, yeah, it's critical. It really is critical. We had a lady one from England who said that she started a website for Europeans who want to travel Route 66. And so she started a website called Lost on 66. And she says right after she started it, she got a message from somebody in northern England that said, if you're traveling through Missouri and you go through Bourbon, Missouri, make sure you stop at Bourbon Cafe and Coffee Saloon and see the dog Dolly. So our dog Dolly, who is frequently at the restaurant, kind of has an international fan club, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a real blessing to have world travelers there.
Your other dog doesn't seem so impressed by Dolly.
No, the other dog just kind of lays around. He's chilled.
So, and Route 66 going to be celebrating, 100 years?
100 years soon. Next year. Yeah, in 2026. The Mother Road will be 100 years old, and they're already planning a number of events that will kick off the centennial celebration. That includes Bourbon and Sullivan and Cuba. That will begin in the fall. There'll be a road tour that will begin, I believe, in St. Louis, and then come through Sullivan and come through Bourbon and end up in Cuba, in Missouri, to recognize Route 66, the 100th anniversary. Yeah.
All right. Well, Dan, so Saturday, June 14th.
Yeah, be there.
10 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
I get to 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I get to MC the event, which is fun. I get to be there all day and sample some of the great food that the vendors sell too. Is available. Some of the homemade things that vendors show up with, and restaurants. And we get a number of barbecue restaurants from around the area that are competing for the first time. MK Barbecue, from Sullivan, is going to be one of the competitors.
I eat there about once a week.
Yeah, they are great. I love MK Barbecue. We've been there a number of times and know the owners. So, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, June 14th. We'll announce the winners at about 2 p.m., and I get to announce the winners.
All right. All right. Well, Dan, it's been great to have you in here.
Hey, Sam, thank you so much.
So we'll be talking to, of course, I see you probably about once a week.
That's right.
You're on my rounds of places to eat. So thank you, and we'll talk to you again sometime.
Thank you.
All right, that is Dan Gray with the Bourbon Economic Development Group, and also with the Bourbon Cafe and Coffee Saloon. And I forgot what's the name of the animal?
Oh yeah, it's Bourbon Animal Care and Control.
Okay,
it's a 501c3 nonprofit.
All right. It is 28 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock here on this Monday, Memorial Day. 64 degrees now. Temperature's going up a little bit, and I appreciate you spending some time with me here this morning. As always, I would ask that you would please say a prayer for the leadership of our country and the men and women who protect this great nation of ours. All of our local healthcare workers and first responders. Find a blood drive somewhere. Go to redcrossblood.org or download the app to your phone, and you can also be an organ donor. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Till then, so long. Mike Gallagher's up next.
756745. Don't lose hope.